If one of the top agents in the entire country can show up, why can't you? And these are things you have to challenge yourself, because these are stories about your capacity. You mean you can't handle two things at once? Now, I'm not trying to chastise anyone here. What I'm saying, what do you really want? All right. Good morning to you all. Please check in if you're on the call with me. I see a few of you already have. Good morning to you, Andres. Let me see the list here. What do we got? Claudia, Lorinda. We got Ruby. We got Kevin. We got Bobby, Joanna, Susan, Arceli, Jessica, Kelly, Ashley, Edgar. Good morning to you. Amir, Celia, Isaiah. What's up, my brother? How are you all? I got to tell you, it feels good today. It feels amazing, right? It feels amazing. And these are the things we have to tell ourselves on a consistent basis. And I made sure that this was something that I woke up with this morning, right? It's like, thank you. Thank you for this amazing life. I appreciate life. I'm going to kill it today, right? I'm going to kill it today. Today's a great day. I have the skill sets to dominate. I have the mindset to keep going. Like, these are things that we have to constantly, tell ourselves. But with that, it's what happens after we tell ourselves those things, right? We just can't sit there and be like, okay, this is great. I'm going to do all these great things and then get on our social media pages and just kind of dwell there. It's about doing things that are outside of what some may seem, what you might call, tongue-tied there, like that comfort space, right? And some people may see it as ridiculous. Like, I remember as we were training for the Ironman 70.3, a lot of people thought it was ridiculous, right? To go run like eight miles on a Tuesday, like, who does that? I remember driving many years ago and seeing people running. I was like, that's so ridiculous. Why would you run? Like, how do people just get this type of mindset to go out and do things that appear ridiculous? Just like many people thought it was ridiculous back in 2014 when I did 350 videos every day. From the moment I was challenged through the end of the year, 350 videos. And I got to tell you, some of those videos were ridiculous. They were. I look at them today and I'm like, what the hell was I thinking? But what we don't realize is when we jump into that and start, playing and dancing with that ridiculous thing that we should do, it really builds us. It starts becoming a part of us. We start embracing that. And then eventually it starts separating us. And I got so many times where I was reminded of doing the ridiculous thing really empowers you. But it can also shell you up. It could also make you contract if you don't lean into it, if you don't embrace it. And over the last week, we had 2 sales meetings. We had one for our top producers, and we had a 90% participation. 90%. And the one person that couldn't make it, well, there was just, it was a conflict of travel. They couldn't get back on time. 90% participation. I'm like, wow. Like, these are the guys that don't have to lean in. These are the guys that can say, hey, I already know what I'm doing. My numbers showcase that. I'm top 1%, I'm top 2%. But instead, they continue to lean in. And then we have the second group where I had like a 40% participation rate, which for me, it's I don't like to see that. It's a little frustrating sometimes. It's one of those things where I feel like sometimes I want it more than those that I'm doing this for. And there was different reasons why people didn't show up. One could be because they feel ridiculous about the numbers they produced last year. Some didn't even have that showed up to the meeting, didn't even have an escrow in place. They haven't even closed anything. Some individuals feel like they shouldn't even be in that class. So they feel ridiculous being in that class because they should have been with the top producers. So there was different reasons why they didn't choose to appear. But I got to tell you something, is being in that place, like, I really, really admire those that showed up regardless of how they felt initially. Because, think about this. I felt ridiculous when I was in a mastermind group where everyone was talking millions and millions of dollars and I was talking like tens of thousands of dollars. Like, I felt ridiculous. These guys are at a much higher level. what they showcase for their revenues, what they showcase in their bank accounts, the homes they lived, I felt ridiculous to a point where I didn't even want to show up sometimes because I really had to look at my results like square in the face. It's like maybe I'm not thinking big enough. Maybe I'm not pushing myself hard enough. And I felt ridiculous, but guess what? I remained in there. And I did the things that made me feel ridiculous and uncomfortable. And part of that was going on social media every day, just talking about my life. Just talking about it. And then I just started to build a skill set from there. And I felt ridiculous starting to write copy because sometimes my grammar wasn't on point. Sometimes I used your instead of your, like Y-O-U apostrophe R-E. Like I would get corrected by people, which made me feel ridiculous. Or I would use the word to when it should have been to, like T-O-O. And as opposed to trying to find the value in what I'm writing, I had people ridicule me and made me feel a little ridiculous, like, oh, damn. But I kept developing those skill sets. Now, back to the meetings last week. I love the fact that even those individuals that felt a little uncomfortable in the room, because here we are, people that are selling $8 to $10 million are in that room. And there's others that just didn't have that in the pipeline. Some have only been a real estate agent for 6 months. So yes, they felt uncomfortable. As a matter of fact, a lot of the worksheet we went through, they felt ridiculous. I could tell some people were kind of looking around like, please don't look at my computer because I got nothing to type. But they were there. Because it reminds me, if you continue to lean in to what's uncomfortable, that is the right path to get you everything that you want. And I love the fact that we had one of our top producers, we had Rio step in, and he reminded everyone that back in 2016, he was that person that felt uncomfortable. He was that person that felt ridiculous as everyone else is speaking a big game. I sold 10 million, I sold 15 million, I sold 20 million. And here he is barely, after 5 months of real estate, getting that one escrow. But feeling ridiculous didn't shut him down. And I think that's the problem sometimes as business owners. We get shut down. We get demotivated. We feel like we don't have what it takes to actually build something great. So he told the story of how uncomfortable he was in that room. But he kept showing up. Every meeting, every training, he kept showing up. And as a matter of fact, he says, I have had perfect attendance for every meeting since 2016 to 2022. Anytime we have some type of training or sales meeting, he has participated. And then people are like, well, you know, how did you build such a big business? Well, you always become a student. You never leave that responsibility. Constantly learning. Any coaching that I decided to bring out to really magnify results, he participated. Rio, how'd you sell $30 million in 1 year? Rudy, how did you do that? They lean in. We have top producers coming in because you can never learn too much. You always got to be a student. And even though it causes some frustration when I don't get the participation from those that have sold less than 8 million and below, I know that I'm going to continue to show up, regardless if there's 5 people in the room or the 150 that didn't show up, or the 100, I should say. But listen, you can either take the advice from those that have been there, including me, I'm one of them, constantly being a student of the game and doing things that are outside my comfort zone, borderline ridiculous, or you can stay in the same element you're in now, beating the same financial drum you've been beating for the last 5 years. Nothing has improved. Everything's the same. Because, well, one, you either know it all or it's too ridiculous for you to do. And this is the moment where we really have to just check ourselves, right? And realize that we can't make the pivot that we want for our business if we don't start doing things that we initially think it's ridiculous. I remember this story during the COVID shutdown back in 2021. I had one of my agents run into someone that used to be here at AZ & Associates, a top producer, right? And he had this mindset. I already know it all. I already know what AZ is going to say. I already know what the coaches will say. I already know what the top producers, if they go on stage, if they come to speak, I know what they're going to say. I'm trying to build a business. I'm not here about, building your body up. I'm not here about finding a deeper purpose in what I do. I'm not here for any of that. My marriage is good. I just want profits. So everything that we were doing to him seemed ridiculous. I already know what AZ is going to say. He said we should work out every day. He said we should read books every day. To find the deeper meaning in your soul. I don't need any of that. Which means what? AZ and everything he talks about is ridiculous. Not knowing that the problem with some business owners is that they try to find a solution for their business within their business when it has nothing to do with their business. It's all the dysfunction outside of the business that's keeping them there. They don't have the energy. They don't have the clarity. They don't have the capacity. But all they want to do is focus on business. Learn a script. Find a hack. Give me a software system. And even when they do, they'll still produce the same amount. Because that's all they can handle. They're unwilling to do the things that will grow them. The things they find ridiculous. I don't need to talk about my health. I'm running a real estate company. I don't need to talk about how to be a better husband or a father. I'm trying to grow a business. That was the mindset. So of course, you don't lean in. If you don't lean in, you're going to see yourself removing yourself from AZ & Associates. That's what happens. You either create separation or eventually you move out. And that's what he did. So one of our agents ran into him in late 2021, and it might have been early 2022. And it was a cross transaction. He's like, hey, how you doing? And that other guy says, well, the COVID thing really killed my business. I've only sold like $3 million. Mind you, this was like a $10 million producer. I've only done $3 million. I know, man, it's tough for everybody. Hart just says, well, what are you talking about? This same guy that's been training for the Ironman now for like 6 months. The same guy that went all in with his business. The same guy that's feeling powerful. The same guy that has the unfair advantage when everyone has shuttered down. He's like, what? I'm having my best year ever. I'm on track to hit 30 million. He's like, what? How is that possible? Well, you're still playing the same game, right? You're still playing the same game. It was out of your comfort zone to do something outside of your business, and now you're suffering the consequences. Now, what I'm telling you is this. The moves that you need to make for 2023 have to be massive. But it always comes after you set a foundation, after you do the things that make you feel uncomfortable and ridiculous. And if you think about all the things that make you feel uncomfortable, going live on social media is such an easy pathway to build confidence, to be able to think on a whim, to be able to just have a communication, have a conversation at a moment's notice, where you build that confidence, that certainty. But yet many people find it very ridiculous. What they don't see is the upside of that. Because maybe they don't get enough views. People might correct them. Your grammar may be off, like it was for me, like it still is for me to this day. You may forget, you may freeze, so it's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous, you shun it. Not realizing that that's what develops your messaging. And maybe your marketing is weak because your messaging is weak. Maybe your Facebook ads fall flat because your messaging is weak. Because you're unwilling to do the things that make you feel a little ridiculous at times. I was talking to one of my agents. He says, AZ, I hate writing copy. I don't know how to do it. I know I need to write this. I know I need to connect with my clientele base. And I felt ridiculous because I feel like it doesn't make sense. It's so hard. It's so difficult. But he didn't shun it away and say, I'm going to figure out something else. I feel ridiculous, so I'm going to lean in. Some of his most powerful write-ups are coming out on his social media, which he then uses to connect with his clients with his email list. Because his messaging is getting much better. That's a skill set he's built. That's a foundation he has now to build something great in 2023. And one of the things that I mentioned at the business planning meeting is the skill sets you have right now will not allow you to build anything beyond what you've built before. As a matter of fact, you're going to be at a loss because it requires so much more today. You have to build your skill sets and your mindset. The competition is getting greater. The demand is lower. So that means you have to get better. So you can miss these meetings all day long and say, well, it wasn't a big deal. What you don't realize are the nuggets that the people that participated received. They got more clarity. Are you more clear? They got a direction. Are you still wondering what to do next? They got inspired. Are you feeling a little nervous? And these are things that we can't disregard. If our top players can do it, why can't you? If they've done it with 100% participation, why can't you? If one of the top agents in the entire country can show up, why can't you? And these are things you have to challenge yourself, because these are stories about your capacity. You mean you can't handle two things at once? Now, I'm not trying to chastise anyone here. What I'm saying, what do you really want? Because there's a lot riding at stake in 2023. There's more of a squeeze coming. Are you prepared for the pressure? And sometimes all we have to do is lean in to what's been proven to work. Lean in to what feels uncomfortable and ridiculous. This is the time to do it. But if you're not doing your lives, if you're not doing more social media presentation, if you're not sending text messages, if you're not calling your past clients because you feel uncomfortable, then understand you're sabotaging the growth of what you promised your family you would do. You promised stability, you promised safety, you promised security. But now you're negating on all that because you're unwilling to do what you know is uncomfortable, what you know will make you grow. Yes, it feels ridiculous sometimes calling a client when they don't answer. It feels pretty uncomfortable, right? When you text somebody and they don't respond. I felt pretty dumb when I pour my heart and soul out on copy and somebody's correcting me on my grammar and my spelling. I felt pretty stupid sometimes when I was corrected when I was making a live video. And some of you are just stuck in that place. It's not my thing. I don't really like videos. I don't really like selfie photos. Never mind videos. Well, it's going to be a long road for you. And it's unfortunate. Because leaning into the ridiculous is the exact pathway to the next level of your business. and this is all around us. And I actually sent a message to my daughter, and I'm going to play it for you. And that's one of the things that I constantly do every day. And I want to remind you to do this for the people you want to build a relationship with, to pour into them just like you're pouring into yourself. If you want 2023 to be on fire, you need to be firing on all cylinders. You can't be firing on 3 cylinders this year like a lot of us were. Right? You have a 8-cylinder vehicle, but was only firing on 3 because you didn't have to. You were like cruising. You were drafting off of others. Not anymore. You got to fire on all 8 cylinders. So, my daughter, Abigail, she tried out for the varsity soccer team this year. Okay, she's been playing volleyball since she was 6 years old. She tried soccer when she was like 7. And she didn't really take a liking to it. She's now 17. So it's not a sport that she actually, ever played, really. And she got this wild idea that, maybe she should try out for the soccer team. And she's an athlete. I mean, she can move. And I got to tell you, at the tryouts, she said, "Dad, I feel so ridiculous out there. Like, these girls have been playing as long as I've been playing volleyball, and they're so good." But one of the things that she realizes is that she's been conditioning her body and her mind to be competitive regardless of how ridiculous she feels. And she ended up making the varsity soccer team for her school. And she's out there at every practice. I got to tell you, she puts her heart and soul into this. She's out there in every practice learning. Sometimes coming home so embarrassed because she completely missed the ball as she was trying to, shoot a goal or kick a goal. I don't even know the terminology, so don't try to correct me. She's all, "Dad, I completely missed it." And then, there's some really good offensive players. Well, they'll do their little moves and leave her completely frozen, right? Where she falls to the ground. "Dad, I feel so dumb out there." But she keeps on showing up. She comes home on Thursday and she's like, "Dad, I finally learned how to kick properly." I guess there's a certain technique to kicking. It's not just bringing your foot back and moving forward. I mean, that's what I thought what it was all about, right? Just like people, when they first come out cycling with us, they think, well, I can keep up. How hard is it to ride a bike? Until you realize, like, these guys, we're moving at 25 miles an hour. But she was there. And it also reminds me, real, like you're on top of my mind today. Like the first time you came out with us on Carla's bike, you had a girl bike. But you went out there, you felt ridiculous, right? In that pink bike, being left behind. You were too big for the bike. You looked like a big bear on one of those little toy bikes. And you felt ridiculous, but you still kept doing it. And you ended up finishing the Ironman 70.3. So that's the same thing my daughter felt. And this time she comes in, she's like, "Dad, I can't believe it. I'm starting to learn how to kick." During this game we were playing, it's not an official game. They were like doing this practice. I kicked 3 goals. Now she feels more inspired. She's an athlete. She's running miles at every practice. She leaned into the ridiculous. Now she's embracing it. Now she's becoming a player. You got to embrace that to become a player in 2023. And even those that were players before, if you don't continue to lean in and push the limits of your comfort, push the limits of what seems ridiculous, it's going to really determine how far you can actually get. And I'm telling you, like, I feel ridiculous on a lot of stuff that I'm doing. I felt ridiculous the first big money brokerage event that I put on here at Easy & Associates. The very first event. Well, prior to, I had to push it back because nobody signed up. You know how ridiculous I felt? My marketing was weak. You know how ridiculous I felt? People were saying, well, who are you to be teaching something like this? You know how ridiculous I felt? And I could have stopped there. I could have said, maybe this is not for me. Because I was planning to hold it in February and I couldn't get people to sign up. I felt a little humiliated, a little ridiculous, a little uncomfortable. And I have a choice. I can pivot. And again, a pivot can only occur if you have the conditioning to do it. I can pivot and say, I just need to get better at these elements. My messaging has to get better. It's not going to be as easy as I thought. It's not that I don't know what I'm doing. It's that the way I explained it wasn't clear to the audience that I was trying to reach. So I pivoted. And I ended up selling the next 3 big money brokerage events, selling out about all 3. And I have another one planned in February. But that was a crossroad for me. Continue to lean into the ridiculous and uncomfortable and embrace it, or quit. And if I would have quit, I would have been like, that wasn't meant for me. But look at all I would have missed out. I'm making an impact on hundreds, if not thousands of people across the country now, because I'm working with other brokerage owners who have hundreds of agents, which equates to thousands of lives being impacted as we think about their family, their team members. And many of you can say, well, it was no biggie. I just missed a meeting. No big deal. But you're missing that fire. You're missing the direction. You're missing the clarity. It is a big deal. It's a huge deal. Because the skill sets you have today won't get you what you want in today's market. And a lot of times we have to self-reflect. What worked? What didn't? What do I need to start doing? What do I need to stop doing? What are things that I was doing that I stopped doing? A reflection in that will give you the direction and the map to be able to move forward. What a shame if I would have stopped just because I didn't sell out my first event. What a shame that would have been. Because that built a better businessman today. I am a better businessman, a better leader here within the organization because of that. And nobody wants to feel stupid. Nobody wants to feel ridiculous. I didn't do that with that intention, but I had to move it back. And I ended up selling the next 3 events, selling out of the next 3 events. But I have to pivot every time. And every time I got better. My messaging got stronger. My capacity grew. And I'm ready. This is the beginning of who knows what. I don't know where this is going. Just like I didn't know where Asian Associates was going. I didn't know we were going to be one of the largest independent brokerages. I didn't know I was going to have so many great people around me. I didn't know the impact was going to be bigger than just what we have here. Like the impact is massive. I didn't know we were going to build other leaders. I didn't know we were going to have a council of kings and queens running their respective businesses, where we would come together and be able to work through massive movements in the market and economy together. We pivoted during the COVID. We're pivoting right now during the downturn, economic downturn. And we're going to pivot again as it booms. But I just leaned in to the ridiculous. So I'm going to play this for you, which is just a message. And again, in your 12-week target book, you have appreciation text. And I encourage you to use that today. Like shine your light upon someone else, your kids, your family, your spouse. What is it that you appreciate about them? And I'm gonna play this for you because I was just so proud of her, of the leaps and bounds that she's taken and how uncomfortable she was, and she continued to do it. Because she could have quit. She could have easily quit. But she didn't. So I'm going to put this up to the mic and I'm hoping that you can hear it. So stay with me, okay? And I also want you to think about something. As I'm playing this, what is the thing that you can do that would feel ridiculous or people would think it's ridiculous that you know you need to do? Like, how can you start applying that? You're uncomfortable going live, then maybe that's a ridiculous thing you can do. In addition to all your other professionally made videos, I get it. When you could do edits, it feels more comfortable. When the lighting's perfect, it feels greater. But imagine the skill sets you build when you have to do it right here, right now. I wouldn't be able to do this with you live if I didn't trust myself. All I need is a couple topics and I can go. Because I have one goal in mind: impact. I hope I can impact your decisions today, your actions today, your life today. So imagine if you take that responsibility as you go live. So here's the message.
Good morning, baby girl. I was just thinking about you, and I gotta tell you, you amaze me sometimes. You amaze me of the courage that you have. You amaze me of how competitive you are. You just amaze me of how it doesn't matter how far out of your comfort zone it is, you will still lean in. And I gotta tell you, these are powerful traits that you're gonna take with you as you become an adult. And simply going, you may not find it a big deal to go into soccer, but it's amazing. Most people wouldn't do what you're doing. To maybe find yourself, feeling embarrassed, maybe sitting on the bench. It doesn't matter. You went for it, and now you're learning the game and you're loving the game. And anytime you go outside your comfort zone, eventually you start embracing it. And I think that's exactly what you did. And not only that, you can run forever now, right? Before it was just short spurts, but now you're running a long way. And I want to tell you, remember that one time we went running and you felt ridiculous because you couldn't make it that far? Well, because you did something even more uncomfortable, now you can do that with your eyes closed. So continue to do and be who you are, baby. I love you with all my heart. Thank you for being an inspiration in my life. Love.
So I hope you guys heard that. Were you guys able to hear that? Let's go ahead and let me see the comments. Were you able to hear that? I'm hoping that you were able to hear that. And, the bottom line was I was proud of her. Because, her and I about a few months back, because she's always been an explosive player, right? So she trains to be explosive on the volleyball court. So you don't have to run long distances. And this is the same little girl that we went running probably about 6 to 8 months back. And after only a few blocks, she was huffing and puffing and said, Dad, man, I'm embarrassed. I feel a little silly because we were planning to run all the way to Starbucks and we only made it a fourth of the way. We had to turn back. Okay, we had to turn back. As a matter of fact, I think we even got an Uber back. And she was so embarrassed. And now because she didn't let that feeling of feeling ridiculous stop her, she now can run for miles. Feeling ridiculous going into the soccer game. Feeling ridiculous that she's a bench player. But the skill set she's building, that's the amazing part. And I don't want you to miss out on that. It's like what you're missing if you don't continue to lean in. What you're missing if you don't do the things that make you feel uncomfortable. These are skill sets that will last a lifetime. So I just wanted to acknowledge her for that. I wanted to acknowledge that I'm proud of her and that she inspires me. So guys, it's what you do. It's what you do when most are unwilling to do it. That's going to be the game changer for you in 2023. So maybe you commit. Maybe now you commit that every meeting you're going to show up, regardless of how good or bad things are. You're just going to show up. And sometimes you'll feel ridiculous being in the room because, the numbers are not there. And others you'll feel inspired. And others will find inspiration in your journey. And that's what the game is all about. So let's lean into it, okay? All right, guys, I want to thank you for joining me for this episode of Mindset Mastery. Thank you very much, Natasha. I appreciate the feedback and everyone that showed up today. I really do appreciate you all. And until next time, I will talk to you soon. Have a great day, everyone. Bye now. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Badass Agents Podcast, brought to you by AZ & Associates and Do the Work Coaching and Consulting. You can watch this and other episodes by subscribing to our channel on YouTube or by visiting us directly at badassagents.com. And of course, you can listen to this episode and many others on your preferred podcast provider.